On a ship you need several different types of compasses, sometimes just as backups, sometimes they use compasses for different purposes. This one's a hand-bearing compass, so it's made to be held by hand, and you can see there's the compass disc inside. It's suspended in some type of fluid, and the fluid kind of dampens the motion. So if you're on the deck when there's lots of waves or the boat is heeling over, the compass disc stays more or less stationary, kind of gives you a chance to read it before it sloshes around too much. This compass disc though is stuck. You can see it's not moving around at all as I move the hand compass. The little prism on top is so that you can hold the compass level and look through the little notch at the top of the prism, and the prism reflects the compass disc up to your eye so that you can sight an object through the notch and see the compass disc at the same time without having to move your hand or your face, which would alter the reading. So here I'm just removing all the components and cleaning them up a bit, testing that everything's going to work out okay, and trying to open up the compass to get fluid out and to see what's causing the disc to be stuck inside. The last person that put this together used way too much sealant. The orange stuff on the top is that dried up sealant that I'm scraping off now. So here we are trying to drain the fluid out of the compass. They have a nice filling draining port on the side of the compass so that you can do that, but it's kind of a slow process because the air needs to get in at the same time that the fluid comes out. But it does make a nice little bubbly video, so. On the side of this compass, you can see some of the yellow lettering on the bottom of the compass there by where the water's draining out. It says to only fill the compass with an alcohol-water mixture, and it gives the specific gravity of that mixture that you should use. So I tried to calculate this as best I could. I don't have a chemistry set. I don't have graduated cylinders or anything like that. I could have purchased them, but I just kind of winged it on this one and found that, online they have lists of different specific gravities of different fluids, and I found one for 99% isopropyl alcohol, which I have, and the specific gravity of water is basically 1 at standard temperature and pressure. So, if you just add those two together, you basically get the specific gravity. So you have X% of 1 plus X% of your alcohol volume gives you this specific gravity. You can see there it says 930 specific gravity on the side. So I did some calculations and came up with something very close to 9% alcohol. Now 9% is hard to do when you don't have any graduated measuring devices, and you'll see what I did later on in the video to make that work. I kind of fudged a little bit, but it works. It's going to work out fine. So here there's a little bit of sealant on the lens there, and I found that the screws for the prism go all the way through the ring, so if you just tightened those in all the way, it kind of pried that ring up out of there enough that you could get it free. You can see that the lip raises up as I screw this in, and then I just use the pliers to pull it out, but it's not exactly the right kind of pliers, so yeah, a little bit scary, but nothing broke. more of that nasty orange silicone sealant to scrape off. I'm just trying to level it out and leave what's there to seal the glass in place, because it is sealing the glass in well, and you can't see it from the top there. So here's what's causing the disc to stick. This little support member has broken free from where it should be mounted down there. So I'm just going to use some 5-minute epoxy, mix it up real well, and glue that thing back down. And you can see this little purple spool of thread. That happens to wedge in between the top of the compass and that support member just perfectly to hold it in place. So here I just apply a little bit of epoxy underneath, and of course I've let this sit overnight so that there's no water or alcohol or any kind of liquid in there. It's perfectly dry inside, which is very important for epoxy. So just get it all coated in there everywhere that I can get it coated, so that this makes a nice adhesion when I clamp it down. I didn't bother to take the compass disc out because it's kind of a difficult mechanism to remove, and the alignment can make a difference, so I decided just to leave it since it was spinning freely. Here we go to clamp it in place. Would have been better had I had a real clamp to clamp it with, but you know, trying to save money. And I don't have a lot of space to store tools in my apartment, so make do with what you have. And here I'm just coating all around for better adhesion. So with everything adhered nice, I can put the lubber line back in place. It's just a little black wire that stretches straight across the compass to let you take a bearing with. So it's just a marker, basically. It was kind of fiddly to get in place, and it's very thin, so I didn't want to break it. And here we are mixing up our 9% alcohol solution. So the volume of these plastic containers is almost exactly the volume of the compass. So what I came up with is do 10 caps of extremely cold water, filtered water, and 1 cap of alcohol. So that really is 10%, but since the water is extremely cold, it's actually a little more dense. So when it warms up, it'll be a little less dense, and that gets you a little bit closer to the 9% that you needed. It's not exact, but it's good enough. Stir it up to make sure it's mixed really well, and then pour it into the compass. And here's a trick for pouring things. The surface tension of liquids will try and stick it to whatever it runs against. So putting the screwdriver up to the cup like that makes it run down the screwdriver instead of down the side of the cup. And of course, you got to get a couple of little paint flecks and whatever out of there. So I could have used the fill port on the side after I'd closed the glass on top of this, but I felt that this was an easier way to get the liquid in there. And everything's reassembled. Just get it all tightened back on there. Later on, I can get any air bubbles out by using the fill port on the side if I need to. Here you can see what it looks like through the prism. So if you bend it up a little bit, you can see this is taking a back bearing. It's looking at the back side of the compass disc. So that's like a person looking at you, that's what bearing they would see. And then if you tilt it down, there you go. Nice job, smart guy. This is your bearing to the object you're looking at through the notch. So my washing machine is 300 degrees. Well, I hope you enjoyed my restoration of this hand bearing compass. I think it's going to be a great little device on board Clever Octopus, and especially in heavy weather, yeah, it'll be real easy to sight things no matter how the ship is bouncing around, and that'll be excellent for navigation. I am going to be doing some piano work for the next week or so, and here you can see I actually have a piece of a digital keyboard. I don't typically do that kind of work, but this one turns out I can fix it easy, so I'm doing it. And after I finish up that work, I am heading back to the boat to try some sandblasting. I've got the okay to sandblast inside the boat, not the exterior, but the interior. And that's good news because the interior is the most difficult part. That's really the part that needs to be sandblasted because of all the little metal ribs and joins and corners that getting a sanding disc or even hand sanding in there would be difficult, if not impossible, to do. So it's going to be a little while. I'm sorry about the delay, but the next video will be some sandblasting, and you'll get to see the real condition of the metal on the boat. And maybe if the weather holds out, I might get a first coat of epoxy onto the metal on the inside. Maybe. I wouldn't count on it, but we're going to try. So don't forget to like and subscribe, as always, and tell your friends if they're interested, and I will see you next time.